While living in the Swedish protected house, could you and your mother leave? Did you ever leave
No.
the building?
No. At that point you didn't go out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, the Russians were on one side of the Danube and we lived on the other side. It was a matter of days, maybe a couple of weeks, until they managed to come across. But by that time it was another incident. I don't really want to go into it. We wound up in the ghetto after all by choice. We finally wound up in the ghetto is because we were very, very close to the park where they used to collect the people, march the people to the park, have trucks waiting for them and take them off to Germany. We had a superintendent who was not Jewish. He was the only non-Jew living in the building. He used to provide food for us, for money and for jewelry. You gave him whatever you had and he would bring food. And he was in cahoots with the Nyilas. The Nyilas were the Hungarian SS. And he made a pact with them. He was anxious to get all the property in the building. We found this out after, after the war. What he did was, he had them come into the building during the night. He helped them march the people from the ground floor to the park, shoot them and throw them in the Danube. Jackie, it's a true story. So we found out that something is going on. We were not aware of what was going on. Then we were on the 3rd floor. The next day, they took out everybody from the 2nd floor. Now, we did not know what was going on. However, one of the young boys living on the 2nd floor managed to escape. And he came back into the building and told the people what was happening. And so the people who had connections got in touch with outside and asked to be taken out of the building. And that's when they marched us into the ghetto. He probably wouldn't have survived had we stayed in the building. But he accomplished what he wanted, to have the building empty, because what happened was he helped people to hide jewelry. He would build boxes and things to store jewelry, and he knew where everything was. And so, but what was also, he was digging a ditch in the backyard, claiming that he was fixing some pipes. And we believed him. I mean, he was helping us, he was feeding us. And so nobody paid any attention to it. But after the war, they dug out the ditch, and he had all the possessions that he could possibly lay his hands on in that ditch. You know? Unfortunately, it wasn't found that he disappeared. He was responsible for destroying my young brother. We didn't know when we were liberated that my brother wasn't alive anymore. We spent about 6 or 7 weeks in the ghetto because it was much further in the city than where we were.
This seems like it was a rushed, march from the protected house to the ghetto. Were you able to bring anything with you? Or?
Yes, they told us to pack whatever we wanted, and we were walked. It was quite a distance, and my mother was pushing a wheelchair of a lady that she was taking care of, and I was the one to carry the suitcase with a few belongings, but it was too heavy for me, and my mother said, just put it down, don't worry about it, which we did, but there were watchers all along the route, just waiting, because obviously it was happening all along. People just couldn't manage with their stuff. And somebody benefited. And not that we had any valuables at that point, but the one thing that was a value, a sentimental value, we had a album of pictures of the family from the get-go. And so I don't have any pictures of anyone in the family before the war.
How long were you in the ghetto, and how did?
I don't remember exactly. I think it was about 7 or 8 weeks, something like that. It was. I couldn't pinpoint the exact the date.
How did you get food, and how?
Well, there were a lot of young men who used to sneak out